Hello, my name is Ken Bailey. I'm a lifelong hobby cartoonist, specializing in comic book art, though I've done a number of other types of cartoons. There are already 2 short videos posted on the web about what it's like to be a cartoonist with some tips and a demonstration on creating a cartoon. In fact, for those of you that joined us, we saw this particular drawing right here of my flagship superhero character, the Mighty Energy Girl. This was created in the previous 2 videos from basically a blank white sheet as people watched, showing the process of going from nothing to a finished drawing. But just one drawing is not the whole story, of course. We mentioned that part of the fun of creating comic books is once you have a character created, you need to come up with supporting characters and basically create a universe in which she can live and move, and then start telling a story. Basically, you need a plot, you need some sort of a conflict, you need to explain to your readers the reason why there's a conflict, and then you need to send your hero in to clean it up with the usual thrills, chills, and pitfalls along the way. I've been creating comic books since I was a small boy. This current series was begun in 2004 with this character, the Mighty Energy Girl. She is a supercharged, now middle-aged woman, fully human and yet with DNA that permits performance in pretty much everything at a level far higher than mortal people. We are just about to publish comic book number 24, and as I'm making the final arrangements, I thought I'd just share with you what it takes to go from a single drawing to a whole story. I create a master for each page in the comic book, starting with the bio sheet. These are in plastic, that's why they're a little shiny. Each page takes roughly about 3 hours to create. I start with the text and then fill in the drawings around it, and then lastly add the color. Here we have the very last 2 masters that, once the cover is completed, will complete comic book number 27, and we will be ready to publish. I use a special cartooning paper that is designed to take permanent and water-based markers without smearing. You can see it does bleed through just a little bit, but not much. This is the best I've ever found in my lifetime for this type of thing. I've spent many years working on copy paper, duplicator paper, and going back before that on simple spiral notebooks. Now, let me just pull back a little bit. Once you have your masters, you then can duplicate some test copies of each one of the pages. Here on this table is spread out comic book number 27 in its entirety. I'm not quite finished with the color, but there is page number 17. There is page number 16, and that completes comic book number 27. If I pull back here, it will be 30 pages long, and there are all 30 pages. Quite an enterprise, but if you look at it as just, that's a lot of work, 3 hours per page times 30 pages, you're missing the whole point of being a cartoonist. The point is, each one of these pages was 3 hours of fun, pleasure, and enjoyment. And then just watching them gradually fill in the blanks for a whole story adds to the anticipation even for the artist and creator. I have as much fun as any of my readers do in watching the story unfold. It's further fun because I don't work in a chronological order. I don't start with the cover and then page 1 and page 2. I'll just work on, I generally get the whole story in my head first, and then I'll jump in and start drawing whatever is most exciting or most interesting that particular day. The next day I come back to it, I may work somewhere else, 3 or 4 pages down or 3 or 4 pages back. And then gradually, as a few pages get done, draw the intermediate pages to tie them together. I do share with a few people on the World Wide Web a construction site showing the story going together, but they don't know the missing parts. Only I do. It's like playing a famous television game of many years ago where as they guessed a piece of a puzzle, just that puzzle part would turn around and show one more section of a big picture that, of course, the host of the game knew, but the viewers did not. And so as they guessed each question for each puzzle piece, the anticipation for what the whole would be when it was finished would grow. So here we have our story. This is going to be our cover for issue 27. You can see that that also is not quite complete. I hope to have it finished before the print shop closes tonight. I mentioned that you must have a bio page so that people just dropping in know who your hero is and basically what the basic storyline is, so someone can pretty much jump on the train any one of the stories you're telling and have enough information to know what's going on. Generally, you'll want to keep your bio page just down to one single page. And then here the story is set. Issue number 27 is called Eagle's Tears. It involves a crisis that develops on the Wisconsin, Upper Michigan border, where there is a fictional Indian tribe named the Choctaws, and oil has been discovered under their land. And so the Native Americans are struggling with the benefits and the liabilities of letting the drilling crews in and letting great wealth come flooding into their little nation. As they are struggling, there is a man, this man right here. His name is Slim Evensong. He's a Caucasian, a white man, but he has had a lifelong love of the Native Americans and specializes in their flutes. He has learned how to make their flutes, and he is an expert at playing them. And while watching the drama about the oil unfloat on TV, Mr. Evensong has contacted the tribe he's already known to their chief executive. And as they will be meeting to discuss this all-important question, he is asked if he may play one of his flutes at the opening ceremonies. White men have never been allowed into the proceedings ever, and this would be something new. And of course it would only be at the opening ceremonies because the actual debate and negotiations are for the tribe alone. But Evensong is hoping that this will be a gesture of peace and a gesture that for once the United States is going to back off and let the sovereign Indian nation make its own decision and treat it with respect. So that's the basic storyline. We now go to the museum in Fairview, where the flutes are going to be on display shortly before being sent up with Mr. Evensong to the Wisconsin Upper Michigan area. So we have a reporter named Jennifer Jeffers interviewing him, and the reason we have interviews with a lot of text is while Mr. Evensong is explaining to the fictional people at the museum what's going on, it's really a chance for the author of the story to explain to the readers what's going on. Anytime you're watching or listening to a story and there's some character that asks the little questions, why did the man do that, Daddy? They put that in there so that they can actually be talking to the reader and answering the question instead of just to the character that asks it. We have some history of an event in the past where there was a disaster involving oil in the late 1800s that kind of literally blew up between the Indians and the white men. Here we see the oil field on fire, pretty colorful. And here we see the government's drastic response. There we see the Indian camps on fire as well. It ended pretty much bad for everybody. And so there are all kinds of forces on both sides of this debate that are determined that that type of thing is not going to happen in the present day. And then Energy Girl appears. There is a great deal of flurry with the reporters. Being a very modest person, she says, put your cameras away. It's not about me. It is about the flutes. So that is where the attention should be on the flutes, which are missing. They have been stolen right out from under her nose. And the story kind of evolves from that. It already is posted on the web for those of you that want to read the rest. I'll just kind of pan through the pages here. Those of you who know my stories at all know that frequently there are trains involved. I enjoy railroading, model railroading and rail fanning as well as cartooning. So this man right here, this locomotive engineer on the right, is based on a deceased close personal friend of mine from years ago. Artists, cartoonists, writers just love to sneak personal friends and personal landmarks into their stories. It also gives me a chance to have Energy Girl jump onto a moving train from an overpass. That was a great deal of fun to draw. And of course, ending in this scene, which was also great fun to draw, where the mighty woman is hanging onto the top of this passenger locomotive going 60 miles an hour. That's how she gets to the northern communities. I'm not going to take time to tell you the whole story, but we will just kind of pan down here. We did get a chance to involve one more train, and that is, long story, but she apprehends the guy with the stolen flutes and tells him, basically, it would be in the interest of the health of your face if you were to put the bag down gently. And he does, right on the railroad tracks in front of an approaching freight train, which gave me an excuse to draw this picture. Both a highly detailed nose of a freight locomotive, I love doing that too, and this great shot of E.G. having let go of Mr. Bad Guy, there he goes, to leap onto the tracks to save the flutes right in front of an onrushing train. And of course, she is unharmed. She saves the flutes. She is approached by this fellow. His name is Nick Surefoot. Come on, please focus on Nick, camera. Well, the camera doesn't want to focus on him. Anyway, this is Nick Surefoot. He is a member of the Chocotee Secret Service. And as poor E.G. goes to demonstrate that the flutes are safe, she goes to play it, and it doesn't play. It's an old literary tool of cartoonists that we just let our heroes almost run, and then victory is snatched from the mouth of defeat, except it's the other way around, of course, and now all hope seems lost again. So, it is revealed to her that there is a crucial part of the flute that is missing, without which the flute will not play. It is called the bird, giving me a chance to have E-girl say, "What's a bird?" And a guy in the background who is sweeping says, "I'll give you a word. The word is the bird," to which she turns and says, "Even the trash man knows about the bird." Apparently everybody in the fictional border town of Waukesha, Wisconsin knows what a bird is. So she asks, "Clue me in." Now once again, this is an excuse for me to clue the audience in on the woodland flute and the bird. That is a bird. And exactly how it works. It fits into the nest on top of the flute, is held on by bands. It's not glued on. But it allows the air to go through the flute, pass on the top of the flute, and then back inside again. When it passes over the top of the flute, here it is again, it is passed under a milled channel so small, it's 1/1000th of an inch thick, that it gives the music, as it's forced back into the flute and under the air holes where the fingers are played, that haunting sound that the Native American woodland flute produces. Since the bird is only held on by cords, it is not glued on, it was easy for the crook to take the birds off, put them in his pocket, and then flow the flutes on the railroad tracks. E-girl would save the flutes, of course. He would make off with the birds. And the hope for peace and this goodwill gesture is thus still destroyed. So Mr. Evensong had worked for a year making these flutes, but now all hope is lost. And we have our hero feeling despondent. Nick Surefoot says, "I'll still take the flutes. I will still tell the tribal council what this man tried to do. But Ellen knows without the man there, without the music actually played, it just won't be the same. The fact that the flutes are not there because somebody stole them just indicates once again that selfishness, greed, and human failings triumph over truth, justice, and the American way." We leave our hero despondent, collapsed in a heap on the railroad platform as Mr. Surefoot walks off with the flutes, and all hope seems lost except to be continued. Same next time, same next channel, blah, 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 blah. This gives me an excuse to do an issue number 28, in which E-girl once again is able to save the day with the help of Nick and the Chocotee Secret Service, because all my stories eventually end happily. We usually end with a comedy page. This is a previous uniform. You see that there was kind of like a yellow breastplate that came off the blue tights. But we have a very muscular Ellen having just ironed her uniform. And it says, even strong women sometimes still iron clothes. Not meant to be offensive, but just hopefully to give both genders a little bit of a chuckle. And we end with kind of a montage of heroes from the present and past in Ken Bailey comic book series. And that is that. I am quickly running out of time. But couple more things to show you. These are standalone panels. There's Ellen doing a Samson. There she is doing a power surge, long story. Read my comic books to find out what's going on. There she is with the cape she usually does not wear, just an accessory. And lastly, there she is infuriating Jennifer Jeffers, the acerbic news reporter, by doing her own dishes at a charity event. Not only does she iron clothes, she does dishes when she's not lifting locomotives back onto the tracks and scaring the bejeebies out of bad guys. I hope bejeebies isn't a bad word. She's quite a gal. Great fun, both in the storytelling realm, the art realm, and we now come back to our original picture. But that's my story. There are many of you out there that have your own story to tell. You don't have to be a perfect artist. You don't have to be a perfect storyteller. All you have to do, even if you use stick figures, is have a good imagination, a will to succeed, and a determination that since it's all about you, your style, your story, no one else has a right to tell you it's no good. If you sit down and you tell your story and you're happy, you are a successful cartoonist. This is Ken Bailey. Good day.